If you're a Jurassic Park fanatic, you too may have wondered where was the Spinosaurus during the Lost World. I absolutely loved the Jurassic Park franchise, and after binge watching the films back to back, I realized that the big bad Spinosaurus was nowhere to be found in the Lost World. This sparked the inner Dr. Alan Grant in me as I decided to do some digging. Welcome to the channel, fellow explorers. If you're into dinosaurs and all the other amazing creatures in the animal kingdom, I'd love for you to subscribe and join the channel. Today I will be your guide as we look into where the terrorizing Spinosaurus could have been during the Lost World. I found it absolutely amazing that the two films quote unquote took place on the same island, that was Isla Sorna. But as many movie detectives have pointed out, it would seem that the two films were filmed on two different islands, as the terrains of each are so different from one another. But I say this from experience as I live on one of the islands the Jurassic Park franchise actually visited to film on, that when an island is big enough, you have a pretty diverse terrain, and it can be very different depending on where you are on the island. And given the fact that Isla Sorna is pretty huge, especially when you compare it to the amusement park Isla Nublar, you can see that it has more than enough surface area to be pretty diverse. This leads us perfectly into the popular theory that the cause of the Spinosaurus' absence is due no more than to the fact that the two films took place on two separate parts of the island. When we compare the scenery of the Lost World up against JP3, we can see that they appear quite differently, as the Lost World sported more of a redwood forest look, as represented by California Prairie Creek Redwood State Park, and JP3 looked to have taken place in a tropical jungle, which was portrayed by the beautiful island of Molokai, which is a couple islands over from mine. The events of the Lost World are supposed to have taken place in the southern part of Site B, where it was much drier and forest-like, while JP3 has been said to have taken place within the northern region of the island. With this explanation, it would be a very simple case closed, but there appears to be evidence that the two locations were a lot closer than believed. For instance, we have a couple scenes that we unfortunately did not get to see in the final cut that would have given us very good reason to believe that they were in the same area as the previous film. While Dr. Grant and the group made their way to Engine's laboratory, the group would come across a busted vehicle. The car had a broken window that was to reference Ian Malcolm's run-in with the Raptors. The shooting script for this scene goes as follows. A troubled Grant pierced through a windshield partially caved in, like some giant head butted the glass. Then followed in parentheses, it says, "Think back to the Lost World." Evidence 1 that the two films may have taken place closer than we may have thought. And the second piece of evidence also comes from a scene we did not get to see. As JP3 went through a tremendous amount of changes in production, there was a scene that we did not get to see where Dr. Grant would ask Eric if he had found any weapons that they could use that Engine may have left behind. This had Eric show Dr. Grant a dead cattle prod that we last saw in the hands of Dieter Stark, further providing evidence that the two films took place near each other. Even though these scenes were cut, they both allude to similar locations for both films, giving reason that the Spinosaurus should have been somewhere close by during the Lost World. While I do believe the absence of the Spinosaurus in the Lost World being due to the fact that the Spinosaurus was not made yet, as it was only needed for Jurassic Park 3, I do have a possible theory as to where it was during the Lost World. If we look at the Spinosaurus' resume, we can see that the creature was a super predator, known to be nothing but violent by breaking through fencing, ripping through planes, and snapping up a tyrannosaur. Much like all top predators of any food chain, the carnivores at the top of Isla Sorna's hierarchy most likely would look to expand their territory and by doing so increase their resources. While the Spinosaurus has been shown to look for a fight with other top tier predators to become the top of the food chain, it would be foolish to do so during the time period of the Lost World. While the Spinosaurus went completely beast mode and was able to destroy the young Tyrannosaur it was up against in Jurassic Park 3, we must remember what two animals occupied the territory that Ian Malcolm and his team were in. Yes, the pair of adult Tyrannosaurs of Isla Sorna were lurking in the region at the time. Not only would two Tyrannosaurs cause a problem for any adversary, we must also remember that the Spinosaurus, while huge, was not fully grown in Jurassic Park 3, and several years earlier during the Lost World would have not only been smaller, but probably much weaker too. While the urine of a T-Rex in JP3 would attract the Spinosaurus, who'd be looking for a fight, the same scent a few years prior may have caused the creature to run and hide and stay out of the Tyrannosaurus' territory. This observation, along with the cutscenes from JP3, leads me to believe that both films took place in relatively similar areas, and that the main reason of its absence was the fact that there were two Tyrannosaurs occupying the territory, as well as a badass rolling Timbo, and it kept the smallest Spinosaurus at the time out of the region and off the screen. Of course, these are just my opinions. The realistic whereabouts of the Spinosaurus during the Lost Worlds events are unknown, and probably didn't have much thought about it at the time until it was created to be featured in JP3. I think that the Spinosaurus, although very powerful, would not stand a chance against a pair of Tyrannosaurs of the Lost World, and may have even gotten lucky to kill the T Rex that it did. Not to mention, Timbo would have been all over the Spino trying to take it down, and I think the Spinosaurus was more suited for Jurassic Park 3. I'd love to hear what you think down below. Where do you think the Spinosaurus was during the Lost World? If you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing. And until next time, this is Content Jungle, signing out.